I'm just going to read you the language in your bill. No classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties relating to sexual orientation or gender identity shall occur. Lady, you mentioned George Washington. Who is Martha Washington?
His wife.
Under your bill, how could you mention that in a classroom?
So to me, that's not sexual orientation.
Really?
To her, that's not sexual orientation. And I believe her. To her, that isn't. Because that's a straight person. And straight people can do whatever they want and talk about whatever they people. And that's not sexual. It only becomes sexual when it's not straight, according to these people. And we're gonna have more from that, where she attempts to defend her bill, which she appears to have very little understanding of. But here's the added layer that makes this even more interesting for me. So this is going on in Missouri. The guy asking the questions is Phil Cristofanelli, a Republican, questioning GOP Representative Ann Kelley. So this is two Republicans arguing over this incredibly needless bill. Imara, what do you think so far?
I mean, it's all thoughtless, right? And the minute that anyone thinks, regardless of political party, about it, it doesn't make sense and you challenge it. And so I think that that's the most interesting thing to me about this, is that this is not a person who, I mean, a Republican in Missouri, that's, this is not, Republican like. This is a very, very real Republican. And is saying this bill doesn't make any sense because you all aren't thinking about it. And you're actually causing more problems than you think that you are solving with this legislation. And it goes, it's just true across the board. I mean, the fact that, for example, one of the bills in Florida, if memory serves, wants athletes, girl athletes to report on their menstrual cycles. And so what that means is that girls who are not trans, so cis girls, are going to have to report their menstrual cycles to the state. And do cis parents want that? I mean, is that the world that you want to live in? And that's that's what the world that these bills are creating. Like, they're creating an authoritarian infrastructure across the board, saying that it's about trans people, but it's actually an authoritarian structure across the board, which people really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, people are pointing out that Phil Cristofanelli apparently is one of the few Missouri state reps who's in the GOP and is gay, actually, which I didn't know. So thank you to our audience for letting us know that. But take a look. Oh, by the way, somebody, I guess, didn't read my sarcasm when I said being straight isn't sexual orientation. No, that's what they're implying. Obviously, I don't believe that, just to be clear. Right. But anyway, there are some follow-up questions to her about her bill. Take a look at this.
So it's only really certain sexual orientations that you want prohibited from introduction in the classroom.
Do you have language to make that better, to make it where you're not talking?
Lady, I didn't introduce your bill.
Okay.
And I didn't write it. You wrote it, and so I'm asking what it means. Which sexual orientations do you believe should be prohibited from Missouri classrooms?
We all have a moral compass. And my moral compass is compared with the Bible.
Lady, I believe during your testimony, you said that you didn't want teachers' personal beliefs entering the classroom, but it seemed a lot like your personal belief. You would like to enter all Missouri classrooms.
You can believe something without putting that onto somebody by the way you behave.
It's one of the most amazing things I've seen in video right there. You can believe something without. Oh, I realize what I'm doing here. I totally want to put my thing on you. I kind of walked into a trap there. No, it just radiates from her. Come on, man. Why are you asking me this? You know what we want here. If you're straight, you can talk about it. You can talk about your relationships. You can talk about historical relation. Like, what do I have to put in here that makes it so we get to talk about us, but we pretend that anyone who isn't us doesn't exist. That is the only wording she wants because her moral compass compares to the Bible. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. She means I just do whatever the Bible says or something, and I think it means I'm supposed to hate these people. So what words do I need to put in which order that means we get to openly discriminate against these groups? That's what I read it as, Imara. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's just the hypocrisy, right? It is that they want to be able to do whatever they want, and they want other people who they don't want to be able to do whatever they want to not be able to. And that's what it is. And that's why when you press them on the contradictions, on the ridiculousness, on the vapidness of these ideas and their laws, it just collapses because there's actually no there there. There's actually no rationale besides, well, this is what I want. And so it should be the case. And that's why they so very easily, I mean, she clearly disintegrated. Did she? First of all, I'm really curious because I know this from my own reporting. A lot of times, these state legislators on these types of bills are fed this language. Someone from an outside group may have easily just asked her to introduce it, and she did so without thought because it's clear that she didn't know what she was asking. It's clear she didn't know her own language in her own bill and hadn't even thought about it. And so, one of the things that's happened is that the right has built a very effective machine to get state legislators elected so that they will be able to do whatever they want with those elected state legislators. Now, I don't know if that's the case here, but I do know that phenomenon exists across the country. And we're seeing that play out in the way that these bills are unfolding.
I don't know for sure either. I would imagine from her testimony there, she probably had help because she doesn't really seem all that capable operating independently. Here's an added little fun fact. She was a teacher. Isn't that fun? How was she allowing the Bible to influence her teaching there? Also, this bill that wouldn't allow you to recognize any sexual orientations except de facto straight. It's not for kindergarten. It's not for kindergarten to third grade. It's for all grades. All grades. And his example, and I'll close on this, of not being able to acknowledge that Martha Washington is the wife of George Washington, that may seem like a ridiculous example. But remember what they want in Florida, they kept talking about teachers mentioning that they, like if it was a female teacher, had a girlfriend or something. You can't do that. You can't literally just acknowledge that a relationship exists. It is the exact same thing as the Martha Washington. You are acknowledging that relationship exists between Martha and George. Why is it that acknowledging that one is fine, but another one is so unacceptable that it needs to be barred with the power of the state? So anyway, that's just something for her to think about when she revises her bill, I guess.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.